Welcome back to the Do More podcast. I welcome our guest this morning, Dato Ibrahim. And now, Dato, you have been an oncologist for over 30 years, in fact, 33 years to be precise. You are also the past president of the Malaysian Oncological Society, also the past president of the Asian and Pacific Federation of Cancer Research and Control, and the immediate past president of the Southeast Asian Radiation Oncology Group, or CROG. Now, you've been in the field for many, many years. And we're here to discuss a very important matter in the healthcare industry in Malaysia, which is to say that a lot of people who have bought policies, insurance policies, and they think they are covered for incidences of cancer and other serious diseases, in fact, are not covered, and they have a false confidence there. Can you please explain what is the situation as it stands?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me here and allowing me to share some of my thoughts on this. And first of all, I have to say that, insurance plays a very important and crucial part of our healthcare. And they've been, we've relied on them as important healthcare partners because we look at them as the umbrella that will cover us during a rainy day. And they have been doing a good job for a very, very long time. But unfortunately, over the last few years, and certainly the last few months, we see a lot of arguments, discussion, hot topics about insurance. Earlier this year, there was a big discussion about hike in premium, and that was addressed in Parliament, that was addressed in the media, that was addressed in right across the board. And today there's a reheat of that topic, but in a slightly different direction in terms of denial, in terms of rejection, in terms of insurance are not living up to the expectation in terms of providing the necessary healthcare coverage that they have promised us.
So you're saying that some people who might have upped their coverage to million-plus-ringgit policies, right, thinking that they're covered for any contingency if and when it hits them. But when the crunch time comes and they go through the process with the hospital, they are then denied coverage. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, certainly. Nowadays, if you look at insurance coverage, some insurance company are offering millions. And I think there was one company that offered about 30 million per year. I mean, I don't imagine anybody using that sort of amount. But, what's the purpose of offering such huge amount, enticing people, say, hey, look, you're well covered, you got 1 million, 2 million, 3 million coverage, you don't have to worry about hospitalization. But when it comes to claims, there are a lot of little hidden phrases in the insurance clause that you signed and you are not aware of that limits to how much of that 1 million that you can claim and how much and what they will pay and what they will not pay.
Can you give some examples?
Okay, very simple. Say, for example, for breast cancer treatment, okay, they will cover you for surgery and sometimes for the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. But as part and parcel and standard of care for breast cancer, you need to take a tablet, called, it's a hormone tablet. And you need to take that sometimes up to 10 years. And that's not maintenance treatment, that's continuation treatment. And the insurance will say, okay, you've done your treatment, you've done your chemo, you've done your surgery, we paid for all that. And your 130 ringgit per month oral therapy, which you need to take, because you're already so-called in remission or you've had your treatment, we're not paying for that. We're not paying for that. But the problem is, if you don't pay for that, there's a high chance that your cancer might come back. It's not maintenance treatment. It's not, it is part and parcel of ongoing cancer treatment. Like diabetes, what they're saying is, you got a high blood sugar, I give you diabetic medication. And then suddenly your diabetes becomes under control, you're well controlled. Oh, I'm not paying for your tablet anymore because your blood sugar is controlled. Of course, when you stop taking your tablets, your diabetes will come back and it will shoot up. Your blood sugar will shoot up. These are some of the examples. And sometimes some of these insurance companies are very unclear about what they cover. So I've had a patient recently with breast cancer, high-risk breast cancer. When you have HER2 positive, that means that's very high risk. The cancer is very aggressive. And you need a treatment called anti-HER2 therapy, drugs like Herceptin. Yeah. Now, the insurance says, oh, we only cover for chemo and radiotherapy, and we don't cover for any other treatment. And that patient was denied of essential cancer treatment, although it's part and parcel of the chemotherapy that I gave. But the insurance says, oh, I'll pay for this. They selectively say, I will not pay for that. That's interference. That, if you look, I wrote to them and I said, look, this is part of standard of care treatment. It's not, I decided to give this treatment. This is international guidelines. I'm following international guidelines. If I don't treat this patient adequately, the cancer will come back. And the moment the cancer comes back, it will be stage 4. And I can't cure this patient. There's no matter how much money I spend. And in the long term, if that cancer comes back, you're going to end up paying a lot more money for this treatment. Because what's the chances of cure if I give this treatment? It's well over 90%. If I don't give this treatment, the cure rate drops significantly. But, they don't care.
They don't care. The insurers don't care.
Don't care. You appeal, you write all sorts of letters, they go through their agents. The agents will come back and say, oh, sorry, doctor, we don't cover this treatment. And that's it.
So they are overriding doctors' instructions.
All the time.
All the time.
It's incredible. Sometimes, one of my colleagues was telling me there was a drug that he was giving for nose cancer, and this patient has got stage 4. And this particular drug is, we've been giving that drug for 20 years, 30 years for treating stage 4 cancer. And the insurance company had the cheek to say that this is not a standard of care treatment for nose cancer. They're not even qualified. They are not oncologists. They are not doctors. And they are questioning a senior consultant and telling them this is not standard of care treatment. I don't know where they got this whole, idea about this is not standard of care. And it was like, we were just shaking our heads and we thought, oh my God, what's happening here? Some lay person is telling a specialist that we're not paying for this drug because this is not standard of care. And all you need to do is to Google, and this drug will come up on top of the list as being the preferred choice for chemotherapy.
So what I understand about the medical industry is all doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, which is to say that the highest calling for all doctors is to safeguard lives and take care of people beyond any commercial objective. And that to me also applies to the medical industry and the insurance industry, which is to say they help pay for the cost of healthcare, which is going up every year, right? Now you're saying there's an abdication of sorts of that ideal. Why has that happened?
I think the simple answer to that is the insurance industry has changed. it's more profit driven, unfortunately. It's more becoming more profit driven. And this idea of, helping patients and all that it's no longer the priority. It used to be, but I think this has changed. The whole industry has become more profit driven. That's it.
So, if you are a grieved patient and you have fallen foul of these definitions, who do you take the matter to? Because I understand that the insurance industry is governed by Bank Negara, but Bank Negara are financial regulators. They regulate the banks and the financial services industry, of which insurance industry falls under. But Bank Negara don't know about medical issues. Is that the so? Is what I'm saying is that if you're an aggrieved customer or an aggrieved patient, right, where are your points of resolution?
I think that's the whole issue now. I think, like you say, Bank Negara regulates the governance of the the industry, but they don't know much about healthcare. But the Ministry of Health does not have a say in controlling insurance industry.
So
They are
Ministry
not.
of Health says, I defer responsibility
Well,
to.
they don't say they defer responsibility, but they do not have the power to tell the insurance company what to do. So I think there is a huge gray area in Malaysia in terms of governance. So because of that, the insurance are taking advantage of this gray area, and they're making their own rules and doing their own thing. And, even despite warning, and there was a letter written by the Director General of Health early in October to say that they have to follow standard of care, guidelines. They have to, it is wrong. It is, they're contravening the Private Healthcare Act, if they deny patients of standard of care treatment. Despite coming up with such circular, nothing has changed. So I'm not sure who, actually make sure that all these are, that insurance have to respect and, and follow standard guidelines. They are not. And that's the problem now. I think we need Bank Negara and MOH has to come together and tighten up. Only when people come together and sit down and cover those gray areas, only then I think we will see a greater governance and better regulated insurance industry in Malaysia. And that hasn't happened yet.
So the forces at work here today is this, right? I know, anecdotally, empirically speaking, the number of cases of critical illnesses has gone through the roof, lifestyle, etc. The number of people who've gotten cancer, everybody has someone who has a connection to cancer. That is undeniable. At the same time as that, the cost of healthcare has gone through the roof, is skyrocketed. And so people are trying to protect themselves by buying private healthcare. But they're not being protected. And no one is there to take care of them, right? The Ministry of Health is in some way, they're doing their part by issuing these statements, but they're hamstrung because they're deferring responsibility to Bank Negara, who are not medical regulators. So what are the points of resolution for customers now, for patients? What do we do?
That's the whole issue now is, what do we do? Because at the moment, we just have to rely on Bank Negara and Ministry of Health coming together to tighten up this so-called gray area. Now, yes, I agree with you. The cost of treatment has gone up. But, at one time, they blame that increased cost to the private sector. They say, private hospitals are making huge profits. And because of that, you know, insurance had to raise their premium to counteract that. I think that's all. You know, it's not the private hospital. It's the healthcare industry right across the board has gone up in price. What you pay today and what you paid 20 years ago is different. What you pay today for your nasi lemak and teh tarik is different from what you paid 20 years ago. You know, everything has gone up in price. But Malaysia remains one of the cheapest place in Southeast Asia for healthcare industry.
Still,
Very much here. We're a lot cheaper than our neighboring countries. Why do patients even from Indonesia, come to us for treatment? We're cheaper than them. To do a PET scan in Indonesia costs 5,000-6,000 ringgit. To do a PET scan in Malaysia costs 2,300 ringgit.
a third of price. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are not as expensive as what a lot of people think. You know, I can tell you this. I've worked in UK for many, many years. I've come back and I've seen healthcare. I've trained also in the States. I'm proud to say Malaysian healthcare system is one of the best in the world. We have really good healthcare system. We have a choice of public and private sector. You can choose, you know, where you want. You can choose your specialist. You can choose the best doctor, best treatment, best private hospitals, and the best, you know, of the best. And some of the treatment that we have in Malaysia is certainly at par, not better than many countries in the world. So, you know, we do have very good healthcare industry. I don't want this healthcare industry to be destroyed, you know, by false accusation of, you know, private hospitals are charging so much. It's not that, you know. It is, like I said, the whole cost of treatment has gone up. You know, and we can't control that. You can't control the cost of nasi lemak, teh tarik, and the rest of, you know, for 50 ringgit 20 years ago, I can go to any supermarket and I fill up my trolley. Today, 50 ringgit, I can't even put, you know, half that trolley, you know, with food. You know, so things have gone up in price, and therefore, you know, same applies to healthcare. But, you know, we have to, but the problem here is, although coverage has gone up and they promise huge coverage, but the problem is, you know, oh, I cover you for 1 million, and you think, oh, well,
Peace of mind.
peace of mind. I've got 1 million coverage. But when you claim, when the claim comes, oh, you cannot claim for this, you cannot claim for that. I can't even claim. Ask my patient to claim for that 130 ringgit worth of treatment. And then the patients will complain to me, hey, doctor, I've got 1 million coverage. You know, my insurance company covers me for 1 million. I can't even claim for 130 ringgit. What happens then? Doctor, I cannot afford to pay for this treatment. Can you please refer me to the government hospital? So what happens then? The responsibility shifts, yeah, from insurance who are supposed to provide that cover, and you still have the amount of coverage, and that coverage now has to be that cost now has to be borne by the Ministry of Health. And now, you know, the Ministry of Health hospital is already burdened with lots of patients. Because of this denial, we are loading the system more and more to the, you know, in the healthcare, and that's not the direction that we want to take. You know, why should, you know, government takes the responsibility that belongs to the insurance company?
There are so many inconsistencies in the system, because when you subscribe to the private healthcare industry, you are using your own money, right? It's above and beyond your tax dollar, above and beyond your corporation tax and your salary and your income tax. And the fact is that insurance industry are they are saying, okay, if we deny you coverage, at least the government is there to sweep up, and that's wrong. And the good thing about this, well, not the good thing, but the transparency that is involved in the insurance industry is interesting, because the government bank Negara, right? You can actually go to their website and you can actually study their financial accounts, and you can actually see the disclosures of the amount of money they're making. So some of the biggest houses in the country are literally making billions of ringgit. I've done the research. I've spoken to many insurers, and they're literally making at least a few hundred million, if not a few billion ringgit. And then also they disclose their boards of directors, and you can see on their boards of directors there is actually regulators on their boards, which means there's conflicts of interest. And you have to ask yourself who the regulators are safeguarding. Are they safeguarding the insurers, or are they safeguarding the people? And it seems to me it's quite clear that the regulators are safeguarding the profit interests of the companies who are paying them the independent director salaries. And there's something wrong about that situation.
You hit the nail right on the head. That is that's the whole thing, that, who are they protecting? And that's the same questions I ask. But can I go back and can I remind everybody, this insurance, where do they get their money from? It's your money. It's my money.
My premiums, my
It's my
premium
premium.
payments.
I pay for that money. And I've been paying insurance for 20 years, 30 years, with the hope that one day when I need that money will be given back to me. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Suddenly the insurance says, that's my money. I regulate that money, and I decide when I will pay for you and when I will not pay for you. The question is that right? That's my money, I put in. Insurance doesn't put in 1 cent of their money. All their investments, all their, all their investment profit, everything is customers' money. Yeah, and people forget that. People forget that. A lot of patients say, never mind lah, I'll just go to the government, and take no further action. Yeah, that's sad, because hey, you're giving your money, and then when you want to claim your money, and then they say, no, I'm not giving you money, and then you say, okay lah, send me to the government.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Like you say, who are they protecting? Protecting this rich industry people so that they can make more and more money? Or are they protecting us? Are they protecting my patients who have got stage 4 cancer? If they are denied treatment, they are not given proper treatment, they will die prematurely. Who are they protecting? The ill, the patients who need the treatment the most, or they're protecting this big, huge industry who pays their CEO millions per month, per year, salary. And have you been to some of the so-called annual meeting of the insurance company? It's a huge gala of financial boasting. We welcome this agent. Here, he made X million ringgit sales. Our top agents, X billion ringgit sales. Driving a fleet of Mercedes. Being paid huge amounts. Being given holidays in Europe, US, everywhere, 2 weeks fully paid holidays as a reward. So they are rewarding agents with huge amount of money. They are rewarding their CEO They're throwing big, huge, lavish annual dinner parties. And yet, when my patient needs 130 ringgit to pay for his medicine to keep her alive, they've been denied of that 130 ringgit. The question is, I ask, is that correct? Is that right? Is that how we regulate this industry?
There's a few other things which make my blood boil. I've got doctor friends who tell me that because Malaysia's a health tourism hub, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from Penang, and Penang is a very big health tourism hub. So patients come from Indonesia, they come from Thailand. You mentioned those industries, those countries are very expensive. But these doctors are also telling me that when they claim in their home countries for their claims, they're pretty much rubber stamped because the industry there is not as, shall we say, compromised as Malaysia. Is that true? I mean, can you
Very true.
validate that?
I have patients from Indonesia.
Yeah.
I have no issue when it comes to claims. Their insurance company, well, until today, honor their claims. Even if I have queries, it will be like minor queries, how long do you intend to keep this patient in hospital? What are the tests that you intend to perform? There are basic standard questions, which I think is fair. Those are, but, they don't say, oh, I'm not going to pay for this treatment. I'm not going to pay for that treatment. Why is that? Some of the other countries, the insurance coverage, doesn't question and interfere with medical treatment, standard of care treatment. Why, I ask, how come things have changed in Malaysia and suddenly insurance company wants to govern medical treatment, want to dictate what treatment we should give? Overriding doctors, overriding specialists. The crazy part, there was a circular out a few weeks ago that triggered a lot of response from many doctors. The insurance said, you have to give local anesthetic for patients undergoing surgery and not general anesthetic. They are telling the doctors,
What to do?
you should be giving local anesthetic as the preference, compared to general anesthetic.
So they're advising doctors on health issues.
They are telling you we will pay, we want to cut the cost. We want to cut the cost of surgery, so please give local anesthetic. And not, we try and reduce your general GA. So imagine you have your appendix out. Say, hey, your insurance doesn't allow you to give general anesthetic. I have to do a local anesthetic to remove your appendix. That's what they're doing. They're telling doctors now, you cannot give general anesthetic, or you have to, you give local anesthetic. And these gray areas is where the healthcare industry, the insurance industry are looking at and say, hey, we take advantage of this gray area and we are doing what we want to do, because this person cannot regulate me from here, this person cannot regulate me from here. So what we need to do is to address and cover this gray area. Okay? One example, and I say now, what I would like to see, how I think, what I would like to see what Bank Negara does. You want to deny patients of their claim. Okay, you deny. Is your denial justifiable? Okay, you go to a tribunal. That tribunal will so-called look at the claims Yeah. And if let's say they say, oh no, insurance is wrong to deny this patient, what should happen after that? Nothing happens lah, because then they just slap on the wrist and say, okay, you pay. And then sometimes what happens is when you pay, they don't pay you the full amount. I've had patients, they only pay 50% of what the Bank Negara tells them to pay, reimburse. They only reimburse 50%. I've had patients who that happen. By right, what I want to see happening is, okay, when they say, okay, you're wrong, I would like to see they get penalized for that. That means they have to pay a summon of maybe 10 times the value to the government as a penalty for making, So once you start penalizing these people, this nonsense will stop. I will guarantee you this nonsense will stop. You just need to have a tough regulation. Yeah.
But that's the problem, because there's a gray area. Bank Negara and Ministry of Health, they don't know who covers what. And so it's fallen through the cracks, and it's clear that in Malaysia, the insurance industry is profiting from this gray area. Now, the other issue here is that in Malaysia, only 1 in every 5 Malaysians have private healthcare for a variety of reasons. The chief one is, of course, disposable income. It's expensive, right? And cost of premiums have gone through the roof in recent years. Now, because only 1 in 5 Malaysians have private healthcare, and it is in private healthcare that this issue is happening, it's not a national issue. So it hasn't captured national attention, right? It's not really widespread discussed in Parliament, right? So that's the other challenge as well. How do we raise public awareness that this is happening, and basically Malaysians are being cheated and they're dying as a result of this? How do we raise the awareness of this?
You see, I think, like I say, the healthcare industry depends on a wide pool of people subscribing to it. The wider the pool, then they have a bit more leeway for things. So our pool is small, and by increasing the premiums, that pool is going to get smaller and smaller. As that pool gets smaller and smaller, insurance are going to find ways and means of trying to save money, trying to, increase profits by imposing all sorts of, restrictions on claims. I actually did warn in there was a parliamentary session of a PAC meeting, and it was in Parliament. And when they were addressing this insurance premium business, and I said to the minister, please be careful. You want to regulate premium, but you did not regulate the denial rates. You have to, tell them that they have to follow standard of care treatment. That was not emphasized. And what happened today? Boom. Exactly what happened. The denial rates are going up and up and up and up. The decline rates are going up and up. So, so much so that I'm not sure what actions that Bank Negara and the government is going to take, because everybody's been talking about it. It's out in Code Blue. It's out in the newspaper about all the ministers have been talking about this in Parliament. But at ground level, at my level, I don't see any changes. I don't see this so-called concern by the politicians, by the bank, by the KKM, translating into something that has been done. To me, nothing has happened. Life goes on the same for the insurance company. The denial is still there.
So what I understand from my sources is that a lot of the denial is actually coming from the big players, not the small players, the big players. And these players control 20% of the industry, between the few of them, they control more than 50% of the industry. So the amount of contribution in income tax, corporation tax, I mean, as you say, with the $1 million round table, the big shindigs that they throw, it's quite clear that this is a money game. And so I'm not surprised, because remember some years ago, the United Health in America, the CEO was gunned down, right? Obviously, because people had enough. The people decided to take matters into their own hands, and they said, look, you people who have just profited from our misery, you cannot, right? And he was gunned down in broad daylight. We don't want things to come to that point in Malaysia. Obviously not. Malaysia, by and large, is still a very well-regulated place. But this is one grey area that regulators must step in. It has to step in. Because everybody is going to get, either one way or another, connected to the big C one of these days. In my circles, multiple times in the last 20 years, 30 years, multiple times. What's next?
Yeah. You see, I think Malaysians, by general, they are very sort of, how do we say it? They're very patient people. They're very
agreeable.
agreeable. They say, never mind lah.
Don't make a
I
fuss.
don't need to fuss. I don't want to cause trouble lah. I don't want to fight for this. So they don't, in some ways, sadly, they don't stand up for their rights. So they allow these big people to trample them, and they say, never mind lah, I don't want to. And sometimes even, in some ways, doctors, they say, oh, this is between you and the insurance, I don't want to get involved. So nobody
is stepping up.
Is, voicing out such problems. And, unless we have public voicing out, and I think that things will change only when there's enough people, and I would want to see, all these consumer association coming in. I think so far they've not said anything. And it is the consumer association who should be shouting the loudest.
Yeah, from the rafters, yeah.
Yeah, they should be shouting the loudest. Because, the consumers are being denied. So they should be fighting for us.
You know how during COVID, there was this Kita Jaga Kita movement, right? And I think somebody built an app, they built it for free. And then whoever needed food or they needed assistance, they just put a white flag up. And Malaysians contributed because it's all geolocated, right? So my family helped other families and so on and so forth. I see that happening with the medical industry. Doctors are helping patients in whatever way they can, right? And some of these resolutions are like, when it comes to submitting reports, I can see this, right? Because the definitions that the insurers are kind of like, they're just interpreting in their favor by saying, okay, if you're in remission, and they dictate what is remission, no more coverage for you.
Correct.
Right? So I see doctors helping, and that's a good thing, because doctors also are people. And you have this oath which you took, right? Is that true? Is that happening in your area as well?
I mean, we try to help patients as much as we can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have to be careful that we don't say things that we shouldn't
Of
be
course,
saying.
because there's
repercussions.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes something good may also translate and put that in a disadvantaged situation. Say, for example, now, you come to me and you say, okay, I want to take health insurance, and I fill up all the forms and all that. Yeah. And let's say at that time your weight is slightly higher.
Yeah.
So, never mind lah. I'll just put your weight as being, normal, because I don't want to load you unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Or there are some past medical history of something that you had, and say, okay, you don't include that in your declaration. 5 years down the line, the insurance finds out that you did not declare your medical condition. Boom, straight away. And that happened to me. You see, I was doing some blood tests, and my blood sugar was raised by 0.1 point. And I wasn't taking, that blood sugar test was done when I wasn't fasting. It wasn't a fasted blood sugar. Somehow, that report, when I wanted to do a claim, that report went to the insurance company. Hey, you got diabetes, your blood sugar was high. I don't have diabetes. That blood sugar was taken when I was not fasting. You know, after I've had some food, the blood sugar was raised. You did not declare you got diabetes, it declined. That happened to me. So my claim was declined because why? I didn't declare that I had diabetes, and I didn't have diabetes. I don't have diabetes. You know, it was taken. So they will find every single excuse
To deny.
to deny you. So please be careful when you fill up insurance form, your doctors fill up insurance form. They may want to help you, yeah.
What you say
But
can be.
sometimes how they try and help you may
Work
turn against you
Yeah.
in the future, because they can use that definition and say, you fail.
Even some agents who work for some of these big companies, they are being denied. Their own company policies are denying them. Anecdotally, I'm hearing these things, right? What is this world coming to? So, okay, so let's talk about points of resolution now. What can people do? Obviously, if you can afford it, you go and get another policy to hedge your bets. But many Malaysians can't afford to do that because it's too expensive, right? What else can we do?
You see, I think here the insurance company have to be a bit sensible. They're providing these huge claims and charging high premiums. I think what we need to do is increase the base of people who can afford insurance, and like Obama plan, more people can afford insurance. Therefore, your whole sort of base increases, and therefore the burden of claim
Shared out,
is shared out, and therefore the whole thing. So somehow we have to be a bit innovative and think of how can we reduce this, increase this base. I'm not an industrial person. I can't advise on this, but certainly I think these are some of the things that needs to be addressed. But at the same time, also I think we need our patients to speak out, to challenge. I had a patient who, like I told you, who was denied of this treatment. Yeah. And what did I tell the patient? I said, look, this is a grey area. You go to your insurance agents and they say, no, we are not covered. But at the same time, I said, this is a grey area. They don't say they don't, they say they cover this, but they didn't say they don't cover that. So I think the only way you can sort this out is, why don't you consult a lawyer? I think that's where now, we have to use a bit more, but I don't want to see a lawyer,
Yeah.
So and I have seen, patients who go to the lawyer, and all the lawyer has to do, no need to take them to court, write a letter to the insurance. Why did you deny? On what account did you deny? Where in your policy that you says you will not pay for this? The whole thing flips.
Oh, so they're deathly afraid of this lawsuits.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
The problem
Fantastic.
is, I think we now, need lawyers to come in and advise patients on this. Where they are denied of their claim, I think, we should get lawyers to look at those and say whether or not the insurance are correct, And I keep telling my patients, look, when you go to the lawyer, even if it goes to court, who are the insurance industry going to ask as their expert advice? I think none of the specialists will sit down and
Represent them.
and represent them. Certainly in my oncology society, we are not going to help defend. They will defend the patients. They will not defend the insurance industry. So I think, my advice to the general public, don't be afraid to discuss your insurance policy, your denial. Take it to a good lawyer and ask the lawyer to look at your policy. Only they can interpret the law, and only they can say, yes, the insurance is correct, or no, the insurance is not correct, and we have to challenge this. And when it comes to challenge, and I can tell you, most of the specialists, certainly the oncologists, will be protecting their backs.
Yeah.
They will help patients.
That is so gratifying to know because, Malaysia has the highest power distance ratio in the world, right? I mean, there's so many studies. Scandinavia is the lowest and Malaysia are the highest. That's why we're so tolerant of these authoritative figures, right? And we don't want to make a fuss. These some Malaysians all don't make a fuss, right? What else can happen? Can we establish an independent oversight mechanism, for example, right? That seems to be quite easy to. I mean, we've got all these councils and all these things happening, right? Just have an independent oversight where all disputes are referred, and then it's made up of doctors or healthcare professionals. That seems to me easy to implement.
There are ombudsmen, there are, this so-called independent thing where but not many patients
We'll use that
are
mechanism.
using these things. So there not many of this denial actually surfaces and goes. So a lot of them, when they are denied of something, they would rather shy away and say, okay lah, doctor, send me to the government hospital. That is the first response that we get from our patients.
Well, I'm hoping that with conversations like this, we can keep this whole issue alive. And I'm hoping that the more people that see this discussion, the more they'll say, hey, that happened to me, me too, me too, me too, and then it gathers momentum. Obviously, this something is not that should not happen once off, lah, Dato. Maybe we can keep this conversation alive,
yes, certainly.
and keep on discussing this.
And I think there's also, initially we talked about our increase in healthcare costs.
Yeah.
And I said that's something that we can't control. But one thing I did not mention, that one of the biggest contributor or main contributor to increase healthcare costs is actually the insurance company. Why? Because some of these insurance company, they come to the hospitals and they say, I want 25% discount. I want 20% discount. And, some of the smaller hospitals, they cannot afford to give that kind of discount. We cannot afford, because we have a lot of cash paying patients, and our markup is very modest, 8, 10, 15%. And you're asking me for 20% discount. I cannot afford to give. But some of the other bigger hospitals, because, what do? They mark up 20, 30%. Okay, you want 20% discount? I give you 20% discount. I jack up 20% and I give you 20% discount.
That's why some MRIs cost this here and cost
Correct.
that there, right?
So if you look at the cost in some hospitals, you're paying a lot more. In some hospitals, you're paying a lot less. The discrepancy is because some of them, they want so-called please the insurance company. They want to be in their good books. They want to be their so-called star performers, star, preference hospital,
Panel
hospitals. So they give
the
discount
yeah.
by increasing the price. Being a businessman, I think everybody knows, you can only earn a certain profit, you can only give a certain profit margin. And if people ask for more discount than what your profit margin, you just
Not
can't do that.
sustainable, yeah.
So the only way you can do that is by increasing your profit margin. And that's why, some of the hospitals, the healthcare, the cost is phenomenal, it's high. It's because this insurance. So one of the things I think Bank Negara should step in and say, no, cannot ask for unreasonably high discounts. And what some of these big companies do by giving this price, so-called, hey, you give me 20% discount, huh? I now make you a priority hospital.
They
Okay?
feed business that way.
So, and then telling patients, hey, you are a priority hospital. Not because your quality is good, not because you have fantastic doctors, you have fantastic equipment. Yeah? Because you gave the insurance company a huge discount, therefore they are recommending these hospitals to you. And then, if you don't give these hospitals, the hospitals don't give this kind of discounts, the insurance play havoc. And what has happened in some of these hospitals, I can tell you, one major insurance company is doing this. Say, okay, we give cashless facility for some of your doctors, all right? But for your colorectal surgeon, for your breast surgeons, we are not giving cashless facility. So then I told the insurance, I said, look, if I have a patient, my patient with colon cancer, who comes in the middle of the night with a medical emergency, who perforated his bowel, and I need a colorectal surgeon to operate on that patient now, because I don't have time. This is a medical surgical emergency. And if my surgeon doesn't have cashless facility and the patients cannot pay for the high cost of surgery, what do I do? They don't care. I said, I can't transfer this patient in the middle of the night to another hospital with cashless facility. That's my patient.
Yeah.
So, by doing this, they are interfering with medical treatment, and dangerously so, because by selecting who they give this cashless facility and who they don't give, they are interfering with the healthcare industry. They are interfering, and that should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. And I've made a report to Bank Negara on this, and I'm waiting for the response. But this doctor, it's not because this doctor misbehaved or has got bad books this doctor, in another hospital who complied with their so-called, they are in the good books of the insurance, this doctor, same doctor, will have cashless facility. But when Dr. A, the same Dr. A goes to another hospital, they don't have cashless facility. So there is this discrimination, and the whole thing is based on why I make your life difficult because you didn't give me enough discount. And this is happening today, now, with one particular insurance company.
Boy, it makes my blood boil, man, Dato. Seriously, because we pay our hard-earned money,
Yeah.
and every year we're paying these guys premiums, and they're playing these games with us.
They are. And, and it is affecting patients' lives.
Of course.
Why? For the sake of profit. This is all boils down to profit. You don't give me enough discount, I make your life difficult. I don't want to give cashless facility to some of your key doctors. And these are the most senior, experienced doctors you get in Malaysia. They are our top surgeons, our best surgeon. Denied.
Things have got to change, man.
So I hope, and I sincerely hope, that Bank Negara will put a stop to this nonsense, because this is really affecting patients' care. And it is dangerous. One day, somebody will die. But when that happens, you know what will happen? They blame the hospital. They blame the doctors. You didn't operate on my patients in time. You didn't do this in time. Why? Because I'm waiting for your insurance to give approval. I've waited for 6 hours, the insurance don't want to approve. I keep appealing the hospital, the insurance don't want to approve, so I cannot do the operation. When the patient dies, it's your fault. You delay the surgery.
Well, that is downright evil.
that is going to happen. If, that's why I sincerely really appeal to Bank Negara. Please put a stop to this nonsense. You know, insurance cannot dictate, you know, who they, you know, that if the doctor is not doing things correctly, there is a body. The body is called the Medical Council, Malaysian Medical Council. They can report that doctor to the Medical Council. But this insurance company, they are the Medical Council telling the hospitals, I don't want to recognize this doctor, I don't want to recognize that doctor. Who are they to override our MMC?
Yeah.
Say, oh, you cannot send to this doctor, you cannot send to that doctor.
They're a bunch of bean counters and accountants. They're not doctors. They're not healthcare professionals.
That's what they are doing. That's how they are playing the game. And Bank Negara needs to put a stop to this.
Dato, I thank you for coming on. I thank you for surfacing this discussion. It's certainly something that I was not aware of. I also personally raised my limits to over $1 million earlier this year, precisely because I was afraid of the contingencies that might come down the line, thinking that I have a comfort level now. Clearly, that peace of mind is not really a real peace. So I shall also be hoping to do these backup plans, and I thank you for raising this issue with me.
Thank you. Again, you know, like I say, the insurance industry play a very important role. But I feel that in Malaysia, it needs to be carefully regulated what they can do, and they cannot, you know, decide to, you know, run the healthcare industry in their own terms.
No.
And
certainly not for profit.
And they have to put patients before profit. But unfortunately, in recent years, that's not the case. I think profit is becoming more important to them than coverage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.